Okay, we are back and we are talking about metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. So when we're looking at the periodic table, it's basically, we just talked about groups, we talked about periods, all that stuff. But when we're looking at what the element is, right? So it's physical makeup of it. We basically group those into three things. We have metals, we have nonmetals, and then we have metalloids. And in just a second, I'll share with you where those are going to be on the table. Okay, so first let's talk about metals. Characteristics of metals, you know this because you're in eighth grade and you've seen metal before in your life. So metals are elements that are shiny, good conductors of heat and electricity. They are malleable. That's a word that you'll probably only use in chemistry, but it's a word that's you're going to need to know. Okay, that means that it can be hammered into a sheet, and they're also ductile, which means they can be drawn into wire. And if you think of things you have in your kitchen like tin foil, right, that's metal. It's been pounded down into a thin sheet, rolled up so you can, cover your leftovers with it. If you any of the wiring in your home has been pulled, right? That wasn't rolled out metal, right? That it didn't form naturally like that. They melted it down, they pulled it out, they formed these wires. That's ductile. It can be pulled. Um, conducts heat, conducts electricity, those things. Nonmetals, those are elements that are dull, not shiny. Poor conductors of heat and electric current. Solids tend to be brittle and unmalleable. Few familiar objects are made of non-metal stuff. Okay, so non-metals, obviously, those can be things like glass, not glass, gases, and then other things like sulfur, when they're physically occurring in nature, they're not shiny. Your nonmetals, they're brittle. I can break them pretty easily, and so on. Metalloids. Here's the cool thing, right? So metalloids are also called semiconductors. They have properties of both metals and nonmetals. Some are shiny, some are dull. Metalloids are some of them are malleable, some of them are ductile. Some conduct heat and electricity well, some don't. Okay, so that's going to be like silicone, for example. It's not actually a metal, but it has a lot of metal like properties. So in your computer, you have chips made of silicon, right? It can conduct electricity, but it doesn't get hot, right? Like our metals will. So it's a great uh, material to use in electronics because it has both properties of metals and nonmetals. It doesn't get hot, right? But it can conduct electricity and information really, really quickly. All right, so moving on to where these things can be found on the table. Let me hit this little button here. There we go. Okay, so let me get my fat hat out of the way. I'll put myself up here. There we go. Okay, so again, this goes along with that coloring activity. If you've been following along, if you've been coloring, that's great. If you haven't, no big deal, right? So here are our non-metals. Typically, any periodic table that you get or are given is going to have a darkened, there it is. See this little, oh my gosh, it's backwards for me. See this little stair step thing right there. There we go. Somewhere down. There we go. See that dark line? Can you see it? So that dark line is going to be represented here, right? Okay. So anything to the right of that dark line of that little staircase, those are going to be nonmetals. Remember, these are things like gases. Um, uh, they don't conduct heat and electricity well. They're pretty brittle if they exist as a solid. All of these are noble gases, are all gases. All right. And then we have our metalloids. These things are literally touching those stair steps, right? So here we have our little staircase here. Everything to the right of it is non-metal, with the exception of hydrogen. Hydrogen's over here only because it only has one valence electron and it's in family one. It's from the last video. All right, and these metalloids, again, their characteristics is that they have properties of both metals and non-metals, right? So here we have, look at there, silicon's right there. That's the one we just talked about. good conductor of electricity and information, but not heat. That's why we use it there. Anyways, and then anything to the left of this little staircase there, those are going to be our metals. Look at how many metals there are. Look at that. So it's safe to say that the majority of our periodic table is made out of metals. Okay. Remember those properties. They're ductile. They can be pulled into a wire. They're malleable. They can be hammered down into a sheet. Okay. Non-metals can't do that. Some metalloids you can. Okay. So that's it. That's all we have for this one. Metals, non-metals, metalloids, and where are they? So staircase. Metalloids, right of the staircase. Non-metals, left of the staircase. Metals. That's a quick video to make up for the last one, which was like 16 minutes long. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and you are going to take your last learn check. Those 3 learn checks that you have today are going to count as your assignment for the day. So once you finish with this, you're done. All right, cool cats and kittens. I'll see you soon. Office hours tomorrow. Stop the video.